Welcome to the Red Path. Hello and welcome to the Red Path. I want to start this video by giving a brief introduction about what the channel is going to be all about. Obviously we're going to be focused on looking at World Eaters and to a lesser extent Khorne in general and Chaos Space Marines. We will focus on tactics and lore, but don't worry, this will include everything from open play, narrative play, regular match play, and also up to competitive. To signify this, every video will have a rating between 1 and 5 skulls. Anything rated 1 skull will be focused purely on fluffy open play. Skulls 2 and 3 will be more a kind of beer and pretzels, garage hammer, where the tactics involved, you know, they're going to help you win games, but it's not dominating the meta. 4 skulls will be pretty hard stuff. Yeah, you know, stuff for your local tournaments, things like that, and anything with 5 skulls is really pushing the boundaries and you would not want to take it to a friendly game. So today's video we're going to be looking at the top 5 units currently available to the World Eaters in 9th edition, based purely on my opinion. I have played several tournaments with World Eaters through 8th edition. I'm fairly competent with them with a decent win rate, nothing amazing, but they are my faction and they are who I focus on. So today's video is rated 4 skulls, as I said, so this is some pretty hard stuff, but doesn't mean it's absolutely necessary. It's not meta changing, it's just some top tier as far as we can make it for the World Eaters. Unit number 5, Chaos Terminators. Coming in at 135 points for 5 models, Chaos Terminators are a staple of most Chaos players' lists, especially so for World Eaters with their recent Red Butchers stratagem upgrade. I personally prefer to build these with Chain Axe and Combi Bolter, as this keeps the cost low but doesn't sacrifice their killing power too much. Rocking 2 wounds, a 2-up armor save and a 5-up invuln save, Terminators are reasonably durable, especially when in cover. Having the ability to natively deep strike is especially useful in this edition, and when coupled with Bolter Discipline and their resilience, these are a great unit to drop down mid-game onto an objective and hold it safely for a turn or 2. Lacking a version of objective secured does mean they can be displaced easily, but should anything get within a solid charge range of these, especially if upgraded to Red Butchers, it's only going to be a problem for a short while. With 5 models deep striking, they can drop in and pump out 20 bolter rounds and have the potential for a 9-inch charge. Though I recommend never relying on that, as even with an upgrade to reroll a failed charge and a potential +1 from a warlord, it never seems to work when you really need it. So I prefer to have them drop in, grab an objective and push out if they survive. With the Red Butchers upgrade, if you choose to buff them with it, you may want to invest in better security for them. Potential ways of doing this involve a Land Raider or other expensive transports, which I don't necessarily recommend, or spending 1 CP to have them move 9 inches at the start of the game, which can be very helpful in further dominating the centre of the battlefield. Terminators only rank number 5 for me because I personally prefer to spend my Red Butchers upgrade elsewhere, which we will get onto later in the video. However, with upcoming upgrades such as 3 wounds and the recent change to Lightning Claws, this will be revisited later on, as I think Chaos Terminators, especially for World Eaters, are going to be bumped up the list. Unit number 4, Raptors. Only 90 points for this unit, I think we get a great deal. A much overlooked unit through 8th edition, for good reason. Raptors have got an indirect buff in 9th edition, and specifically for World Eaters, or any other faction that has an ability to pre-game move. The name of the game in 9th is scoring objectives, and a cheap unit that can pre-game move 9 inches behind LOS blocking terrain, then move 12 inches, advancing up to 18, and have a threat range with bolt pistols or special weapon upgrades means these heretics can score some serious points early on. Depending on how you build them, I see 2 main ways to play them. Upgrade with Melter or Plasma and go for an alpha strike on a key enemy unit, though this is riskier due to the extra points investment and the 50% chance of not going first, requiring a cagier pre-game move. The second way, which I prefer, is to kit them out bare bones and deploy and move them toward a corner in the battlefield in your opponent's side that is relatively undefended and use them to claim objectives, score points for engage on all fronts, and also deploy scramblers in the first turn in your opponent's deployment zone. This will force your opponent to dedicate something to remove them, else they'll hop around frustrating them all game. In most other factions, Raptors probably wouldn't play much of a part, but the unique ability to apoplectic frenzy that initial 9 inches is huge on an infantry unit with the fly keyword. I strongly recommend you dust yours off and give them a field test in 9th. Unit number 3, Khan the Betrayer. Here we have everybody's favourite swell guy. I've advocated for this absolute madman for a long time, but not for the reasons most people enjoy his company. As one of only 2 Chaos Space Marine HQs that offer a full reroll to failed hits, alongside Abaddon, Khan has been a staple of my 8th edition competitive lists, providing that buff to various backline range units. On top of that, he is an excellent deterrent and defender if and when the enemy does attempt to charge your gun line. Whilst his datasheet is certainly dated now, he still packs a punch in combat, able to put out a ferocious amount of damage with the right buffs. I hope to see him become more combat orientated in the next codex, so it forces us to use him in melee as opposed to a backfield operator. Nevertheless, we work with the tools we have, and Khan can really push your list over the edge if used smartly, and at only 115 points, he's a steal. Unit number 2, Khorne Berserkers. Yes! Berserkers! The absolute epitome of carnage, slaughter and destruction. Berserkers represent everything we hold dear when it comes to Warhammer. Glassy and risk orientated, this unit nevertheless brings about an undeniable sense of satisfaction when it does what it's supposed to do. Short of an Orc player, I don't think there's any unit that inspires a bit of light roleplay as much as Berserkers. Able to dish out insane amounts of attacks and deceptively manoeuvrable, Berserkers are a staple of any World Eater's list. They can act as crowd control, chewing through chaff like an oversized chainsaw attached to a sword hilt through a brick of room temperature butter, or with some pertinent upgrades, seriously inconvenience even a knight. Gaining objectives secured as a World Eater is especially significant in 9th, with much of the action occurring in the centre field, allowing them to contest and dominate objectives held by lesser combatants. The mobility they can unleash in the fight phase also helps secure victory by being able to quickly secure multiple targets with some clever positioning. Finally, the number 1 position goes to Zufar the Impaler, a Forge World unit with rules found in Imperial Armour Chaos Space Marines. Zufar is a named character, however, due to the janky rules of Forge World units, he may take his own Warlord trait. Plus, being a Terminator character, he may be upgraded with Red Butchers. These things combined is what turns Zufar, in my opinion, from an average character to something over the line. With a 2-up save and a 4-up invuln, 7 wounds, and an obscene amount of attacks, with 2 very powerful melee weapons, one more focused on armour and one on infantry, Zufar can put out some serious damage. Resilient and reasonably mobile with the ability to deep strike or be scout moved with frenzy, plus 2 fight phases allows him to consolidate and pile in 2 times. Personally, I like to add the Battle Lust Warlord trait, which allows him to always fight first, which is especially important in 9th edition, with things like the Judiciar and a particular Death Guard character, which force units to fight last. Battle Lust nullifies that and everything goes back to a normal order of operations. On top of that, it allows him to heroically intervene up to 6 inches, which is absolutely amazing. Red Butchers obviously upgrades his strength another point, giving him a base of strength 6. He can put out 13 attacks over 2 fight phases. The axe rocks in at damage 2, whilst his fist is damage D3, both with some decent AP, and his fist comes with strength times 2. I've had tremendous success with Zufar in every tournament I've played him in, and every other game to be honest, pushing him out early, trying to hide him where possible, but if not, he will absorb a lot of firepower, being able to save 50% of everything that's thrown at him. He also has a Deny the Witch, which can be incredibly useful, and he does modify enemy units' leadership, which, whilst not amazing, doesn't hurt. Zufar, when upgraded with 2 CP's worth of Red Butchers and a Warlord trait, is an incredibly competitive unit for the World Eaters. So much so that I would make him almost necessary unit if you are running a competitive list. For friendly games, Maybe not upgrade him so much and spend the red butchers on a true Terminator unit, but at current time, we don't have the greatest breadth of units that are truly competitive, and Zoo 4 is probably the only one that can go anywhere near to being considered overpowered or broken, though I wouldn't consider him either of those things, especially considering how the Marine meta has been over the last year or so. So that wraps up my top 5 competitive units for World Eaters so far in 9th edition. I fully expect these units to change drastically. I fully expect both Terminators and Berserkers to get incredibly better when a codex drops. Raptors, I imagine, will stay fairly the same. Khan should get some decent upgrades. I suspect will lose his hit roll aura, or it will perhaps apply only in combat. And Zoo 4 may end up being completely squatted. You never know with Forge World, but we should at least find out about him fairly soon. We should see Forge World updates before the end of the year, according to rumours anyway. So that's been my first video, hope you all enjoyed it. I plan to release a video once a week, probably on Sunday or Monday, and I intend to make one video a month that will be a longer lore focused video. That may take a couple of months to get underway, however, as I'm performing my research now. Just ordered a bunch of old codexes and books and I'm reading through them studiously. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and remember to kill Maim.